Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast with Benji Naesen for one of the most important previews we do all year, the World Championships road race, men and women's. The women's will be a separate YouTube video. It's all in one as one podcast. Thanks to our show partner, Lacole. The Women's World Championships road race. Now, the big narrative here is, will Netherlands get their act together as compared to the Olympics road race, where they only had four or five riders, and it was a bit of a shambles as well documented. The parcours is 160 kilometers long. They also have the Leuven and Flandrian circuit. I think only one time they do the Flandrian circuit, Benji.
Yes.
And then it's about 100 Ks less than the men's race, and then they go back and do 2.5 laps to finish with the Leuven circuit. So the same finish pretty much actually as the men's race, 1 Flandrian, 2.5 Leuven for their race. It's not that harder climbs, but enough to be selective, I think, particularly that last Flandrian circuit, the Netherlands. If they're doing what I expect them to do. The big favourites, before we get into what we think the tactics will play out, are obviously, got to mention them, Van Dijk. She's not 5-starred on First Cycling, but I think she's a favourite. Van Vleuten, Vollering, Vos, Van der Breggen. I don't think Van der Breggen is, personally. Otherwise, Emma Norsgaard, Corin Rivera, and for Denmark and United States of America, Kopecky for Belgium. No Grace, no Grace Brown for Australia. And am I missing someone? Of course, Italy. Longo Borghini and Cavalli Balsamo as well. But yeah, the Netherlands team, Benji, they've got these extra domestiques here, Brand Peters and maybe Van der Breggen. Do you think that's going to fix any issues we saw with communication at the Olympics?
I think so as well, and it's mainly you that told me that just before we started recording this one, so credits to you instead of me. The fact is that they've got more riders here simply, and if you look at their team that they had at the Olympics, they have a limited amount of riders, and most of them were leaders. And here they have the riders in the team that will likely fall into a domestique role. When we look at the team that they have, we have leaders, multiple ones. Yes, we have a Vollering, we have a Vos, we have a Van Vleuten in that team, certainly. And like you mentioned, a Van Dijk could certainly be one of those riders, even though I do think that she's still a bit under the rest of the leaders that we just mentioned, just for the fact that she's been used to being a domestique, while the others have been used to leader all year. So I think that she will more easily fold into a domestique role if it's absolutely necessary as well, and perhaps be one of the riders that could go earlier. But fixing issues from Olympics, issue was that nobody controlled the breakaway. Now they have multiple riders to do so. They have a Lucinda Brandt, Amy Peters, Chantal van den Broek-Blaak, and those are riders that on the year circuit, when we see races throughout the season, could blatantly win races themselves. And right here, that's likely not going to be the case, because they are most likely going to be folding into a role to help out their team. But do they need to control the race, or can they just say, okay, let's put Van den Broek-Blaak in the break, or Lucinda Brandt, or Amy Peters, or Ellen van Dijk?
I think they'll do what they regularly do, which is to, yes, put those riders in the break, but then they'll make sure it doesn't go out to a ridiculous amount, because what if that rider punctures? What if that rider doesn't start to, I don't feel so good? You actually do often see the Netherlands team sometimes
European
just make sure that gap stays close, so the other riders in that break have to keep working as well. But I think the big favourite has to be Vos. Like, her condition at the moment, was she absolutely cooked someone in the finish of I think Simac Ladies Tour. She was again, there's an uphill finish. I can't remember. It was pretty recent. She just ruined everybody. It was a narrow finish as well. I think she just is the perfect rider for this parcours. And she struggled only this season against the pressure of SD Works on like Liège, when it was the longer climbs. But here, it's perfect for her. The only real challenge for her winning is Ellen van Dijk or Van Vleuten going up the road in solo moves, which I do expect. But would you rate Vos, Benji? Say it's a group of 10 going to the finish, no one's able to attack anymore. You've got just AVDB and Van Dijk in the group, as well as Vollering and Vos. They go for Vos in the sprint over Vollering, right?
Yes, depending on what the rest of the group looks like and whether we have a Cor Rivera there, for example, one
True.
could still think about attacking with one or two riders before folding completely into a role of going all out for Marianne Vos at the finish. But if they have to go for the sprint, and the race has not been godlike hard, like in Amstel, we saw that Vos was having trouble, like you mentioned, because, well, the race was being made harder and harder for her. But eventually, she still had the strength to go for a sprint, but I think that on this parkour you don't have that difficulty, and therefore it's more likely that she's going to be chosen for a sprint over Vollering on a parkour like this. And it's not like the finish line is a 10-kilometer climb, so it certainly fits her very well to do so as well. And next to that, she's also good on flat sprint, so even if it wasn't slightly uphill, she would have
Yeah.
been a very big contender in that. But like we were talking about that race that you were mentioning, I think it was Simac Ladies Tour, like you mentioned, I think stage 4, where she was with Niva Doma and also Chantal van den Broek Blaak. This
That's
is
the
one
one.
of their domestiques in this race. Amy Peters was fourth, again, a domestique. And then the fifth was Demi Vollering. So in that top 5 in that race with similar types of hills as well throughout that parkour, you've got 4 of the top 5 being in this team. And sure, that doesn't have the rest of the entire competition that they have on this parkour. I know that. But it's still very representative of how good this bloody team will be at this race. And yeah, I do think that Van der Breggen is not in the form that
No, I don't think
some
so.
people are still dreaming her to be in. I don't think she's going to be becoming world champion this weekend. I think that she's also likely going to fold into a domestique role rather sooner than later in the race, depending on how it's written, of course.
The other strong contenders for the win are good sort of reduced group sprinters or just out and out good sprinters who have some cobbled or sort of short climb capability. First one obviously being Lotte Kopecky for Belgium. The problem is her team. It's not deep and not particularly strong. Jolien Dor's good sprinter, but I just don't see her bringing back moves. We've seen regularly throughout the season Kopecky, she is short of a few teammates often, and she has to do it herself, and it ends up costing her. And I think also if she gets into a group of 5 and she's offensive, no one's going to want to work with Kopecky, or they shouldn't at least. So it's tough for her, Benji Kopecky. I think as well as you said, like if she gets into a good group, G1, and it's got 4 Dutch riders, they're going to attack her, right? No way they go to a finish with Kopecky.
I think so as well. And I think in general, I would say that it is near impossible for Kopecky to win this race, while she is the perfect candidate to win it if she had a strong team. She has the perfect capabilities of doing this sprint, slightly uphill sprint, same way like Vos in that aspect. But the problem, like you mentioned, is her team is not there. And I don't consider this team able to bring her into a contention against an army of Dutch riders that is going to try and attack her left and right. And the second she is in a split behind, there's likely nobody there that could bring her back except for other countries. And that is the chance that she has. She could end up being in a position that might get her the win only if she can benefit off other countries the entire day. But if you have to bet on that and you have to see that as your only way of winning, then it's unlikely that you win.
A rider who I think is a similar profile who's been cleaning up sprints, but not for the win, is Corin Rivera. She's won the bunch sprint, I don't know how many times, for second or third or fourth in the last 2 months. She has a strong team. The American team, I think, is very strong. Kristen Faulkner, actually, speaking of riders who denied her, Ladies Tour of Norway, stage 1. Actually, no, she denied Suzanne Anderson, my mistake for DSM, but Faulkner's been very, very strong from long-range moves. They have Thomas, Taylor Vills, and Ruth Winder, who I believe is retiring, but both of those riders were strong in the classics in spring on Trek Segafredo. I think it's a good team. I think they'll want to bring Rivera for a sprint, but they will probably try Faulkner in a move if they can get her in one, because who knows? Maybe, obviously Netherlands are going to be favourites, but maybe Faulkner is good enough and improving that she can try against Chantal van den Broek Blaak in a move. It's something certainly to try. But yeah, do you think Rivera can beat Vos in this sprint? Because I actually think she can, Benji.
I also think, I also think she can. Yes, that's English, Benji. And I would I was actually like thinking back at the races that we've covered in the last month, and while we're talking about Rivera, go back 1 second to Netherlands. Like Rihanna Marcus is not on that list for the Netherlands, right?
Oh yeah, she's not.
Oh my
That's
god,
that's the
they're
SD
so
Works.
luxury.
Oh no, is she on SD Works? No, she's on Jumbo Visma.
Yeah, I think she's so luxury. Well, the Netherlands is in such a luxury position that they have so many riders to choose from that they have to keep such strong riders at home, and that's just so
Yeah,
representative
wow.
of their strength. But again, like America, like you mentioned, Ruth Winder as well is one of those riders that will go in moves in my eyes and might light things up. And she's also not slow because we saw was it beat Vollering, I think, at the Brabantse Pijl this year as well. So certainly a rider to look at as well to perhaps make early moves. And that brings me to another rider I do see doing that, and that is Elise Shabia in Switzerland in that aspect to
Oh
play a
yeah,
role in going
true.
in early moves. Reuser perhaps as well, because I also don't think that those are two riders that will end up winning a sprint, so they
No.
have to go early, and they're likely going to have at least one of those in a move on the Flandrian circuit, I would expect.
Exactly. Expect to see that. Shabby was doing it all spring for Canyon Schramm, and Royce is obviously in absolutely incredible form right now for Switzerland, and she's got a huge engine. But yeah, they got to win from a solo move. Nivea Doma, she's been in good condition all year. She's been there or thereabouts all year. The problem for her is how to actually win. She has, I can't even count, so many top 10s and top 5s, including at the biggest races, Liège, Flèche, Amstel, Dwars, Dour. She just can't sprint very well. And I mean, Amstel, she would have come second or first if Lisa Longoborghini had worked with her. But yeah, she just, and I don't think this course is hard enough for her to just blow everyone away on the Leuven circuit's not hard enough for her to blow everyone away, and then the Flandrian circuit's too far from the finish because on a 500 to 700 meter 7% section, she has been, I think, almost the best in the world this year in Women's World Tour. The problem is it's not near the finish here, and she won't have the team to bring it back. So I don't really see it for Nivea Doma. Probably will come top 10 though. Otherwise, Great Britain is, one would think the favourite is Dignan. I like Anna Henderson for this race, for Jumbo Visma. I think her results don't really show how good she's been this year. In the spring, where she was working for Marianne Vos and attacking and sacrificing herself, I think she should be the leader for Great Britain, Benji, or was that heresy?
I would dare to say as well. Obviously, Dignan has the experience, but all year she has not really been on the forefront of women's cycling and has not been in very many potentially winning positions this year. And if you can't make the split to a potential winning position, then you also can't compete for the victory. And this is likely going to happen on this parkour where you're going to have a split somewhere and a group or certain riders will get away. And from that group, they'll likely have to fight for the win, is my expectation of how this race will unfold. And I think Henderson has been very strong in those kind of situations. She was strong at Ceratizit as well in one of the tougher races, the one where Van Vleuten went for that move. I think she was also relatively
Yes.
well, but
And Kreis Brace Elite Dames, she won at 2 stages in punchy, circuit sort of style courses.
yeah, I think so as well. One of the riders that is also doing as well in similar races that is only recently because she's so bloody young is Blanka Vaz at SD Works. Is she here with Hungary? Because I haven't actually checked the Hungarian team on the star list, but she's one of the riders I would have expected to do well. Or is she riding U23?
No, she's riding Langavas for
Okay.
Hungary, so she won't have many teammates. But yeah, she's obviously obscenely talented. I don't know, she did the Europeans U23 Benji, but she's doing Worlds. Oh, there's no
Should that
Worlds
be legal?
U23. Oh, there's.
How can you choose to be U23 this week and next week? Oh, I'm an elite now.
Because there's no women's U23.
Can she go back to U23 after riding an elite world champs?
Probably. I mean, I think the onus is more on the UCI to have a women's U23 world champs so
Yeah,
that
to
she
be
can
honest.
actually do it. So,
Yeah, true.
yeah, I think she's someone to watch. Hopefully, she gets a top 10. If she won, that would be outrageous as well. France have Cordon Rigaud, Duval, Fournier, Lebu, Music. I don't see it for them. Cordon Rigaud, of course. They'll probably try and get in early moves. Lebu as well. She was very strong in the TT for someone that small. What about Denmark, Benji? Diedrichsen, former world champ, trying to get back into some form after not being so good for a few years. Ludwig, Norsgaard. Ludwig's sprint's actually been okay in a few races this year. Like, it surprised me a couple of times. Do you think Norsgaard makes it, Benji, into G1?
Well, she should. Over these climbs, she should definitely be able to do so. Healthy Aiding Tour, we had that one stage where we had the continuous, was it Vamberg every single time?
Yeah.
And she was able to get over that quite doably. And we know that she's got a good bloody sprint, because I think Les Amants des Dames was one of the races she did well at. I'm not sure if she won or was second in that one, with Kopecky second or first as well. But she's definitely on that level of Kopecky in my eyes. In that aspect, the problem is like Belgium a bit, that I'm not 100% certain our team is strong enough to bring her to the situations and also control the Dutch for them. Because every team's problem that is not the Netherlands is the fact that the Netherlands will keep on attacking them left and right, and they need to figure out a way to be able to control or respond to every single one. But the benefit of that is that every single country has that same disadvantage, which means that they might be able to make it if they work together and accidentally respond first this time around, respond second this time around. But
we've been saying that for all season, though, Benji. How to beat SD Worx, how to beat Netherlands is to collaborate. But we just don't see it. Like, we don't see that, because it's expected. We know it's going to happen. We know Chantal van der Broek-Black is going to attack when there's a dull moment to put pressure on the other teams. You just have to immediately snap into gear and not let that get out to a ridiculous margin. What about Italy, Benji? They got Balsamo, Bastianelli, Cavalli, Cecchini, Confalonieri, Guazzini, and Elisa Longoborghini, who is probably their biggest rider. But from a group, I don't know. Can Balsamo make it? She was second at GP Duisburg, whatever that. I can't pronounce it properly. She's fast.
Should have won
talented.
That, to be honest.
Really?
I feel like she should have won that. We saw last year that she was one of the only sprinters that could even challenge Lorena Wiebes at the end of the season in the Ceratizzi Challenge. And then this year, her sprint has not been at that level as last year, or everybody else has gotten a bit better, which seems like the unlikely of the two options in that aspect. But she's certainly a rider that could do well, but I wouldn't be looking at her to make it in G1 personally, because I do feel like this will be an attrition race as well, and therefore Elisa Longoborghini will be vital in trying to attack away. Cavalli trying to follow moves that follow that, I would expect. And Cavalli being the rider that, if a reduced group ends up sprinting, she might be the rider sprinting for it. But I also don't think that she's going to be the rider that will attack away and force moves herself, you know?
I think Cavalli is 6th at Tour of Flanders. She's quite fast. I think, it's tough to know what... I mean, Elisa Longoborghini worked for her in the European Championships, and then chasing Van Dijk, and then Cavalli didn't pull through, which must have been... How that will have an effect on this race, I'm not sure. But if I was Elisa Longoborghini, I'd be a bit more reluctant to pull next time. Australia don't have Grace Brown, who's recovering from injury, unfortunately. They've got probably their leader, I would say, is Sarah Roy. Hosking, I think, is too hard for her, so I would say it's Chapman in a long-range move, and then maybe Sarah Roy if she can make it for the sprint. But again, Netherlands won't want her there, one would think. So now, Benji, time for your predictions, your podium for this race.
Jesus Christ, you always throw me under the bus with these, because I never prepare them despite knowing that they are coming. And when it comes to my top 3 for this one, I'll start off with my winner for this race, and I do think that it's going to be a Dutch rider winning this race. And for me, should I steal your Marianne Vos or should I not? That is the real question here now.
You can steal it.
I think Marianne Vos is going to win this. The only way that I don't see Marianne Vos winning this is because the Dutch rider is off solo. And that's what makes it difficult to guess whether Netherlands is going to win this or not. This could just as well be. I don't think Vollering is going to be the rider to really go into attacking moves either.
No.
Because she always also has that sprint. But if you look at the Netherlands as a team, then if it comes to a sprint, Marianne Vos wins. If it doesn't end up getting to a sprint, then the rider I see winning is it Van Vleuten?
Yeah. Or Van Dijk.
Oh, Van Dijk, you're right. I think
she'll be an early move, though.
Yeah, true, but might an early move not make it?
Yep,
Uh,
definitely might.
Jesus Christ. I'm going to go with Van Vleuten winning this one. And Jesus, I don't know. I don't know who's going to win, man. Mariana Vos will win, okay? Ahead of Gordon Rivera and Suzanne Anderson.
I'm going with Vos ahead of Cecilia Uttrup Ludwig and third Martica Valley is my
Okay.
podium, because I don't think the Netherlands are going to be going to a sprint with Rivera in the group, so they'll have made sure she's not there, is my theory. But that was our
Good point.
preview of the Women's World Championships road race. Look forward to watching it. It's on Saturday. The men's is on Sunday. We hope you enjoyed this monster preview. If you're listening on podcast players, make sure to give us a review or a rating on podcast players. Make sure you roast us on Twitter with your picks. We'll put up a tweet with our picks, because I always forget mine and then claim I picked the winner. So Benji now wants it on the record, what I've actually said for the podium. And we'll see you with the recap of the women's road race on Saturday, if nothing comes up otherwise before then. Thanks for supporting the podcast. Ciao.